Welcome everyone, join us today as we pay tribute to the life and legacy of Greg Ham, the multi-talented musician best known for his iconic sax and flute lines in Men at Work, and a creative force who helped shape Aussie pop rock history. So let's dive in. Gregory Norman Ham, born the 27th of September 1953, in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Born to Harold, a respected jazz pianist, and Elizabeth, a ballet dancer, Greg was drawn to music and performing from an early age, picking up the saxophone at just 7. He attended Camberwell Grammar from 1964 to 1971, where he stood out not just for his music, but also for his flair in school plays, earning praise for roles in productions like The World We Live In, Lola Montez, and The Critic. In 1967, he even featured in a prize-winning photo by J. Jones. Greg later studied at the conservatory, mastering multiple instruments including flute, keyboards, and guitar. In 1972, through mutual friend comedian Kim Gingell, he met Colin Hay, the start of a lifelong friendship and musical partnership. By June 1979, Hay had just formed a new Melbourne band called Men at Work, with Ron Strykert on bass and Jerry Spicer on drums. Hay invited Greg to join, but he initially hesitated. He was close to completing his music degree. A few months later, in October, Greg came on board, bringing his skills on flute, sax, and keyboards. Shortly after, John Reese joined on bass, allowing Strykert to shift over to lead guitar, completing the classic lineup. The name, Men at Work, was suggested by Hay and seconded by Ron Strykert when they needed a name for the blackboard outside the Cricketers Arms Hotel in Richmond, where they played for a few months. The band quickly built a solid reputation on the pub rock circuit, and in 1980, they released their debut single, Key Punch Operator, backed with Down Under, both co-written by Hay and Strykert. Self-financed and released on their own MAW label, the single didn't chart but helped establish them as one of the most in-demand unsigned bands in Australia. In early 1981, they signed with CBS Records Australia, thanks to A&R representative Peter Carpin. Their first CBS single, Who Can It Be Now, came out in June and reached number 2, staying on the charts for 24 weeks. Greg Ham's iconic saxophone riff, originally a rehearsal take, was moved to the intro by producer Peter Mackin, becoming a signature hook. Mackin also produced their debut album, Business as Usual, working closely with the band on song arrangements. Their follow-up single was a reworked version of Down Under, now featuring a bright new arrangement and Greg's upbeat flute solo, which helped propel it to number 1 in November. The album Business as Usual also hit number 1 and stayed there for 9 weeks. Initially, CBS in the US hesitated to release the album, but after pressure from the Australian branch and intervention from top executives, Columbia Records released it, without even hearing it. The gamble paid off, and by 1982, Men at Work was supporting Fleetwood Mac on tour, and Who Can It Be Now topped the US charts. By 1983, Business as Usual and Down Under were number 1 simultaneously in both the US and UK. Men at Work joined a rare club only the Beatles, Rod Stewart, and Simon and Garfunkel had achieved that feat before. That same year, Men at Work won the Grammy for Best New Artist. They quickly returned to the studio with producer Peter Mackin to record their second album, Cargo, which featured the singles, Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive, Overkill, and It's a Mistake. The band toured extensively across the US, Canada, the UK, Europe, Australia, and Japan. In summer 1983, they played the US festival to an audience of 300,000, with the show broadcast live across the US and even to Russia by satellite. The band's rapid rise and growing audiences only fueled their ambition, but by 1984, tensions, particularly between Hay and drummer Jerry Spicer, led to a split. Spicer and bassist John Reese left, and the remaining members chose not to replace them. During the break, Hay produced an album for a friend, while Greg joined an R&B band, Relax with Max, playing brass and keys alongside his girlfriend Linda Westry and other local musicians. In 1985, Hay, Greg, and Strykert regrouped to record Two Hearts, released the same year they appeared in the Oz for Africa concert as part of Live Aid. The album leaned heavily on drum machines and synths, with Greg's saxophone less prominent. Though it reached gold status in the US, it failed to produce a hit single. People magazine's Ralph Novak noted the absence of Reese and Spicer had left the band with a manpower shortage. Two Hearts was followed by a global tour, but both the album and tour underperformed compared to earlier successes. It peaked at number 16 in Australia and number 50 in the US. Strike It left during the album's production, and Greg followed not long after. With their peak behind them, Men at Work quietly disbanded. Hay and Greg pursued solo paths, occasionally reuniting on stage to perform a few Men at Work classics. Meanwhile, Greg resumed his interest in acting and became a regular cast member of the Australian TV series While You're Down There. During the late 1990s and into 2000, Men at Work released several compilation albums, including Putting in Overtime in 1995, Contraband, The Best of Men at Work, in 1996, and Super Hits later in 2000. In 1996, Greg and Hay reunited for a South American tour and a handful of US shows, a partnership they repeated in 1997. In 1998, they released the live album Brazil, recorded in São Paulo, which also featured a new studio track, The Longest Night. Men at Work next performed Down Under at the closing ceremony of the 2000 Sydney Olympics, alongside Paul Hogan. A planned European tour for mid-2000 was cancelled, and by 2002, the group had disbanded once again. However, Greg and Hay continued to occasionally revive Men at Work, with guest musicians, including a notable performance in February 2009, at the Australia Unites Victorian Bushfire Repeal Telethon, where they played Down Under as a duo. In 2009, the Australian music quiz show Spicks and Specs posed a question suggesting that Men at Work's hit song, Down Under, contained elements of the 1934 nursery rhyme, Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. The song had been originally written by Victorian schoolteacher Marion Sinclair, who reportedly rushed home after a church service claiming to have had a vision of a kookaburra. It went on to win a Girl Guide song competition and became a campfire favourite around the world. Sinclair passed away in 1988, 7 years after Down Under had been released. Upon her death, the rights to Kookaburra were left to the Girl Guides, who later transferred them to the State Library of South Australia. In 1990, Larrikin Music Publishing acquired the rights for $6,100. At the time the quiz show aired, even Larrikin's managing director, Norman Lurie, said he was unaware of any similarities. But the next day, after a flurry of calls, Larrikin launched legal action, suing Men at Work and EMI for copyright infringement. They claimed that Greg Ham's iconic flute riff was borrowed from Kookaburra. In 2010, the Federal Court of Australia ruled that Down Under had indeed infringed on Kookaburra's copyright, awarding Larrikin 5% of the song's royalties dating back to 2002. Multiple appeals by EMI and Men at Work failed. Greg later told the Age newspaper that the judgment devastated him and cast a shadow over his legacy. "I'm terribly disappointed that that's the way I'm going to be remembered, for copying something." In his later years, Greg stayed active in music, performing regularly with the jazz ensemble Miss Dorothy and his Fools in Love and band Relax with Max. He also taught guitar at Carlton North Primary School and assessed music students for their Victorian Certificate of Education, VCE. Sadly, on the 19th of April 2012, aged 58, Greg Ham was found deceased at his home in Carlton North, Melbourne. While some newspapers reported the cause as a heart attack, friends revealed he had struggled with a long battle with heroin addiction, which worsened following the Kookaburra trial. The lawsuit had taken a heavy emotional toll, and Greg was known to be battling depression and anxiety in its aftermath, troubled by the impact it had on his legacy. His private funeral was held on the 2nd of May 2012, at Fitzroy Town Hall in Melbourne. He was survived by his two children, Max and Camille, and former partner Linda Westry. And there you have it. Though Greg Ham is no longer with us, his gentle spirit and musical brilliance continue to resonate with those who knew him and loved his work. A gifted multi-instrumentalist with a deep passion for his craft, Greg brought color, soul, and character to every note he played. His legacy is not just in the music, but in the lives he touched along the way. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Take care and bye for now.